The glittering promise of some sort of turnaround for our country is too much to sneer at anybody who offers to make things better. But the fantasies, the fiscal fantasies peddled by Farage and his Reform UK project, this political confection of populist pledges and imaginary money trees, it's very understandable to see why Keir Starmer calls this Liz Truss 2, and the comparison is not only apt but essential. Farage, emboldened by electoral momentum and polling surges, has stepped into the role not merely of kingmaker but of pretender to the throne, and his policies, once confined to the margins, are now paraded as serious alternatives. The real danger lies not in their popularity but in their profound irresponsibility. It's not enough to say we want lower taxes and higher spending without answering the next question of how. So, beginning with Farage's flagship tax policy, raising the personal allowance from £12,570 to £20,000, an attractive offer, yes, but at a cost of up to £80 billion per year. That's not a rounding error, that's nearly the entire education budget. Then there's the abolition of inheritance tax, cost £14 billion a year. A handout not to strivers or struggling families, but to the estates of the already wealthy. And of course, his so-called marriage allowance rise, another £1.5 billion. Together these constitute a triple whammy on the Treasury's coffers. Then there's the spending, winter fuel allowance for all pensioners at least £1.5 billion, scrapping the two-child benefit cap, £3.5 billion, and a new model of state utility ownership. Price unknown, but astronomical. Farage wants it both ways, to look like Robin Hood while cutting the state down to the bone, but Robin Hood at least had a redistributive logic. Farage simply is gambling with the nation's books like Liz Truss. Reform claims that these costs will be covered by slashing net zero policies, ending DEI initiatives and cutting quangos. Let's test the logic then. Net zero. Farage leans on a dated and discredited £45 billion figure. The Institute for Government has already clarified this is not public spending, but largely private sector investment. Scrapping it doesn't save the government money. It simply sabotages future industries. He promises £13 billion per year in cuts to quangos, but as Jill Rutter wisely observes, unless he abolishes what quangos actually do, fund the Arts Council, support scientific research, deliver public health, these savings vanish like summer mist. And when he talks about 4.4 billion and 7 billion respectively for getting rid of asylum hotels and DEI, these are speculative figures from pressure groups, and they assume deportation schemes that are not only legally dubious but logically implausible. Moreover, they count many of the same savings twice. This isn't just economic fantasy, it's lazy economic vandalism in waiting. We've been here before. Liz Truss's mini-budget of 2022, fueled by a similar ideology, sent markets into freefall. Mortgage rates soared, pension funds teetered, and she was out in 49 days. Starmer's right to call this out. Fantasy economics wreck real lives. The postman becomes a symbol of dread. Bills mount, families buckle, and when challenged, what is Farage's response? Not economic rebuttal, but rhetorical sleight of hand. Project Fear, the same cry he used in 2016. But fear, when based on fact, is not project, it's foresight. Keir Starmer's government, however flawed, has anchored itself in the politics of arithmetic. That might not make the headlines that Farage courts, but it does provide the fiscal platform on which to build. Starmer has not yet abolished the two-child cap, to the frustration of many in his own ranks, but he has at least acknowledged the cost. Farage promises abolition without a care for the consequences. This is the difference. Grown-up politics weighs choices. Farage prefers the fantasy football version of economics, where you win votes by promising everything and paying nothing. Farage's manifesto is not a plan. It's a pamphlet of slogans. It would blow up the economy all over again, in Starmer's words. And if the British public are lured into this mirage, they will find, as they did with Truss, that the dream curdles into a nightmare. We must resist the seduction of slogans and instead ask the boring but essential question, how will you pay for it? Because the British public are not just voters, they are taxpayers, they are parents, they are pensioners, mortgage holders, workers. And they deserve a government that understands the difference between conviction and delusion. Farage may shout Project Fear once more, but we've seen before the real project is his, and it's Project Fantasy. And the cost? That will end up being paid by all of us again and again and again. Just as we're still paying for Liz Truss's stupidity.